few craft projects I'm going to share with you today. As a lightweight backpacker, I think sometimes it's easier just to go ahead and make some things of my own to save a little bit of money and be able to invest in the kinds of gear that are really high-end when I need it, and then the more simple stuff I can just go ahead and make myself and save a little bit of money. So first up, and guys, this may not apply to you quite so much, but you've probably heard women talk about using a pee rag. Sorry I have to bring that subject up, but you know, stuff happens on the trail. You've got functions that you need to take care of. And one option is to take toilet paper and pack it out with you, but being able to have a rag that you can use as a wipe can be very handy. And so I got a bandana at my local craft store, and the thing that I realized after I got it, and it was only 99 cents, so it's real cheap, is that this thing is pretty good size. And this is way more than I would need to use as a rag. So if I fold it in 4, it makes a pretty good size that I can just finish the edges real quick, and then I can just hang this off my backpack. And it's going to save me 75% of the weight, even though bandana's not that heavy. I'm a gram counter, so every little bit helps. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this. It's a real quick and easy project, and we'll save a little bit of weight and make life a little bit easier. Okay, so what I did is I went ahead and just ironed this in 4s so that when I have it unfolded, I can see the lines here. And I could have marked it with a pencil, but this was just an easy way for me to do a quick division into 4. So what I'm going to do is lay this out here on my cutting mat, and I am going to use this straight edge to mark where I want to cut. And then you could certainly cut with scissors, but I have this cutting tool that's very handy. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this to run right along the line where I want to cut the fabric. And then I will do one more cut this way. Okay, so that's the size that I actually want to be working with, and I will show you in just a second how I'm going to finish the edges of this on my serger. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and just run this through my serger real quickly. It's got a little blade that will cut the fabric as it goes through, and it'll give me a nice finished edge. So we're going to do that right now and just go around all 4 sides. Okay, so that's it. I'm done. I just need to trim off the very end here. And there you have it, a much more manageable size for the purpose that I need it for. And I can just clip it on my backpack. And because I'm going to get 4 out of that one bandana, I think what I'll do is keep the extra 3 that I'm going to make and put those in resupply boxes in case I lose this one, or you know, it might just get kind of grungy after a little while. So that's what I'm going to do with that. Simple, easy project. Another project I wanted to share with you is making a headband. And I'm sure you've heard of the Buff brand headbands. They come in all different kinds of colors and patterns, good for men and women. One thing that's very nice about them, and this is an original Buff, this has no seams in it at all. So when you put it on, it's very comfortable to wear, and it can be worn in all different kinds of ways. You can wear it as a headband, you can wear it as a balaclava, just a great thing to have in your pack. Now, on some of the forums that I'm in on Facebook, people said that this would make a great pillowcase, but my pillow is from Climate, and it's a little bit bigger than some other pillows. So when I tried to stuff it into the Buff, it just wouldn't fit. And as you can see, it's kind of scrunched up in here, and over time it might stretch out. But another consideration for me was if I'm wearing the Buff all day long and it's getting dirty, I'd really much rather have something a little bit cleaner to rest my head on at night. I'd also love to have a backup if the weight is not too much, so just in case I lose the Buff, I still have a pillowcase that I can use, because as much as I like this pillow design, it's a little crunchy and not the most comfortable right up against your skin. So I found some fabric at the fabric store that I liked the pattern, and it's white, it's going to get dirty, but it's got a nice little animal print on it. And this piece of fabric, it was marked down to $3 a yard, and I only needed half a yard. So I've got a $1.50 investment in fabric that I can use to make a pillowcase. One of the features that I want to have in the pillowcase, actually two features. One is that I would love to be able to wear it as a headband in replacement for the buff if I do lose the buff. But I also, because of my glasses, need a place that I can have a pocket. So I could design this in such a way that the very end of it folds over and has a hidden pocket inside it. So when I'm sleeping at night, I can have my glasses right close at hand. I could also stick a little flashlight in there if I wanted to, as long as I didn't end up hitting my face on it. And even a little ID stash pocket if I need it. So I'm going to go ahead and lay this out and show you how I'm going to make this pillowcase. Since I want this pillowcase to completely cover the pillow, I have laid it out allowing a little bit of extra space so that I can tuck it in. Now I also need some seam allowance. Typically you allow a 1/2 inch for a seam allowance if you're going to just stitch the edges. And I am going to use my serger and it will cut off some fabric, so I don't need quite that much, but I'm going to go ahead and use that just for example. One other thing to point out is the orientation here. I am going to have the pillowcase, if the pillow is going to slide in from one end to another, these sides are open because of the, I've only got the 1/2 yard of fabric. And so what I'm going to need to do is cut it into 2 pieces and hem these ends so that these can be my open ends, and I'm going to sew these sides so that they're the closed sides. I also need to allow a little bit of extra fabric. So if I say I'm going to cut this with this end here being the seam allowance end, then up at this end here is where I'm going to have to allow the extra fabric that I need to make that little pocket that I mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I have some measurements, and I could be very meticulous and I could be measuring and cutting, but for this type of project, I'm comfortable enough with just sort of guesstimating some of the sizes. So I'm going to do that, but just for reference, the buff that I showed you, the size on this is 9 3/4 times 2 because it's folded, and 20 inches long. So I know that my pillowcase is going to need to be bigger than that, and the measurements that I've come up with are roughly about 21 inches by 22 inches for the fabric cut, and that's before the seam allowance. That is going to allow me a pocket that for the glasses is about 2.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and then the ID portion, because I want to be able to have both in there, is 2.5 by 3.5. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut this with my rotary cutter. And then I'm going to have to go to my halfway mark. And as I mentioned, and I'm going to go ahead and line this up on my mat so I have a frame of reference where the edge is, but I'm going to go ahead and cut that line as well so that I have the 2 pieces that I can then stitch together. But now I've got my 2 pieces pretty close to the same size. And what I'm going to do, typically when you sew, is you make sure that the right sides of the fabric are together. It's a little hard to see, but this is the side with a pattern in it. So I'm going to go ahead and put those 2 sides together. And then I've noticed that the edges of the fabric are kind of rolling up on me. This can be a little bit of a challenge to work with. So what I'm going to do is go find some pins, and I'm actually going to pin these together so that the edges stay nice and straight while I sew. Okay, I found my pins. I've got the right sides of my fabric together, and it's going to take a little bit of doing to manage the curl that's in this fabric, so I'm going to go ahead and just pin this together. I find that it helps to be able to kind of put the pin through twice, especially on soft fabric, so that it doesn't fall apart. I'm going to go ahead and get this done. And there we are. It's all pinned. They're about 3 inches apart, and it is ready to be sewn together. This can be done with any standard sewing machine. You could even stitch it by hand if you needed to. I just use the serger because it's fast and it creates a nice finished edge for me. Now, one thing, if you have pinned your fabric as I have, is that you want to make sure that you take the pins out as you go. If you're using a regular machine, you could break a needle. It could shoot off and cause an injury, and it could also just damage your machine. So make sure that you don't stitch right over the pins. You can pull them out as you go if you're slow and steady. Okay, I'm done sewing and I have a nice tube of fabric. I can turn it inside out, check the seams, make sure they're nice and tight. Okay, now I have my pillow just to test fit in the sleeve that I've created, and it seems like it's a pretty good fit for me. So the next thing I'm going to need to do is do the end and make sure that I've got enough length to both tuck it in at the ends of the pillow when I put it on, and then also to make my little pocket. I have turned my fabric back to the wrong side out, and I also trimmed up the edges just to make sure they were nice and clean. The next step is for me to use the serger, and again, you could do this on your sewing machine by folding once and then one fold and then another fold to make a nice clean edge, and then just stitching along this way. Because I have the serger and it makes this finished hem, I'm just going to stitch all the way around this circle just to finish this end. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end, and then I will fold it over my 2.5 inches once it's hemmed to create the pouch that I need. And then what I'm going to do is actually stitch this down. So basically I'll have a nice wide hem on one end and a finished edge on the other. And I will stitch around here, stitch across to create the pockets that I need to have, and then the rest of this will just be a hem on the pillowcase. All right, I've stitched both ends and I've come back and I've laid this out and I've folded over to make my pocket, my 2.5 inch pocket. I could technically do this flat seam on the serger, but I'm going to get my sewing machine out and do it on the sewing machine so that then I can also do the stitches that go this way to create the pockets that I need. Okay, I have my machine out and ready to go, but first I want to pin the pockets, and I am double checking my measurements. What I'm going to do, since I'm going to be going all the way around and I want to make sure that I know where to leave off stitching, is I'm going to go ahead and put double pins at the beginning of each pocket. And I'm just, again, using my card here as a measurement. It's easy way to do it. And putting some pins in here. And double them up, and then I'll know that that's where I need to stop as well. And I am going to stitch part way along the edge of this pocket. The fabric is stretchy enough that I can kind of angle something in, but if I leave it completely open and I'm putting an ID or something in here, it is probably going to fall out. So I'm going to give myself a little extra leeway to be able to squeeze that in there and make it slightly more secure. So I'm going to pin along here as well, just to remind me that that's where I want to pick up. And then same thing for my glasses. I'm going to just go ahead and measure on this side approximately where I want the glasses to be able to fit. And I will pin this as well. I'm going to pin the rest of this on the other side, and then I'm going to go ahead and get it stitched up. Okay, I have my sewing machine all ready to go. I use an old school Bernina just because I like heavy duty sturdy metal old school kind of machines, but any kind of a sewing machine would work for this. You don't need any special equipment. And I'm going to go ahead and get this lined up and start sewing. And away we go. One tip is, as I'm sewing these pockets where I want to leave it open, I'm actually going to stitch backwards a little bit just to make that a nice secure edge so it doesn't come undone on me on the middle of the trail. So I have gone all the way around, and I just need to now stitch the edges crosswise that are going to make up the pockets. And here we have it, a finished pillowcase. One end, actually both ends are open. Now, if I only wanted to use this as a pillowcase, I would have gone ahead and finished this other end, but because I know I want it to double in a pinch as a headband or as a gaiter for my neck, should I happen to lose the buff, I've gone ahead and left it open. I'm gonna slide my pillow in here. Okay, so my pillow fits nicely in my case. And what I would do on the trail is probably just tuck this under. I could even put a couple of little Velcro dots on there to keep it secure. And I've got the pockets that I made that I can put my ID in if I'm in a place where I feel like I need a little extra security, if I want to keep those things close. So double check and make sure that this little card fits in there just right. It does. And then next to it I have the pocket for my glasses, which I can slide right in here. And they fit in there pretty well also. So that's nice and secure, and it kind of hangs off the end so I won't roll over and smash my face on that when I'm sleeping. But I'm pretty happy with it. I haven't weighed it yet, but I suspect that it's probably not more than 2 ounces. And I think it's a good little project. Now you might be wondering why I feel like I need a pillow and a pillowcase, because that's certainly a luxury on the trail. Like I said, I'm a gram counter and every gram counts. It all adds up for me, and I'm trying to keep my total pack weight under base weight 12 to 15 pounds, and then total pack weight with food and water no more than 25. So these are definitely luxury items for me, but as I mentioned in a different video, I'm a very big believer in good sleep hygiene. If I don't sleep well, I don't hike well, so it's really important to me to have a pillow, a pillowcase, something that's going to help me sleep better. I know I'm going to be dead tired, but at the same time, I don't want to wake up at night feeling uncomfortable. I toss and turn enough as it is, so anything that I can do to make my rest better, to improve the quality of my sleep, that's something that I'm willing to invest a little bit of extra weight in to make that good for me, and hope that it's been helpful for you if you want to create a similar type project. Thanks for watching.